It's no secret that the camera on the Google Pixel devices are always every single year among the best cameras on the market. And I also think that Google does a really good job of making their cameras relatively easy to use. They don't always have as many features as something like the camera in a Samsung Android device, but they are really, really simple to use and they do a great job of just being point and shoot. You click that shutter button and you're pretty positive that you got a pretty decent looking shot out of that camera. However, there are a few things worth digging into, a few little things to talk about. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to get the most out of your Google Pixel 7 Pro camera. Now, some of this stuff will apply to the Pixel 7 standard and, of course, other Google Pixel cameras, but there are a few things in there that may be Pixel 7 Pro specific. Not a whole lot, though. But with all that said, let's jump into the video. How to get the most out of your Pixel 7 Pro camera. All right, so here we are looking at our Pixel 7 Pro viewfinder, and for most people, I think this first setting isn't necessarily all that necessary, but for some of the more professional level shutterbugs among us, you may want to be able to shoot in RAW. Well, to do this, you're going to touch up there in your little settings cog, go to more settings, look for advanced. I'll make sure you can see this here. And then we're looking for RAW plus JPEG control. Now what this does, it says it shows option to turn on RAW plus JPEG in the viewer. The RAW file is saved separately along with identifiable camera data in a device folder in Google Photos, uses additional storage. So basically you turn this thing on, and if you go back, you can touch up here once more, and now you will see an option to enable RAW plus JPEG. So basically, whenever you take a picture from that point forward, it's going to save a regular picture, but it's also going to save that picture in RAW format that will allow you, like I said, if you're sort of more of a professional shutterbug, you want to throw that into Photoshop and really get down and dirty, that's going to work a lot better for you at that point. You may have noticed there is a grid visible on my viewfinder. This is a really useful thing in terms of composing your shot, making sure that things are balanced well. You can turn this on by going back into your settings again and scrolling down to composition. You should see framing, hints, and then grid type. So touch grid type, and I'm using the golden ratio, but there are several different ones that you can choose from. That, like I said, it's just going to help you frame your shot and compose your shot a little bit better. Something that I'm actually surprised how often people get confused with is zoom. If you look down here at the bottom, you can see 0.5, 1, 2, and 5. Now, 0.5 is your wide angle, so that's going to zoom out. 1 is standard. 2 is a 2x digital crop, so you're taking the primary sensor, which is 50 megapixels, and you're just using that large resolution to zoom in digitally. And then there's 5x, which actually is an optical zoom. But you can actually do a bit further than that. A lot of people don't seem to realize you can also pinch to zoom in or out to go wherever you want to go. And you can pinch to zoom in all the way to 30x on the Pixel 7 Pro, if I can do this correctly. Once you start zooming, you should be able to just kind of touch down here and scroll through it. And that's all the way up to 30x. You can also touch different spots like 5, 10, and it will kind of snap onto those zoom levels. Now, of course, if you're on a Pixel device that does not have that 5x telephoto, I don't know that you can get up to 30x. I may be wrong, but it's going to be a digital zoom the entire way. You're not going to have any of that optical zoom on the other devices. Pixel 6 Pro, Pixel 7 Pro, I believe the rest, maybe the Pixel 4 had a tele, and I think the rest were an ultra wide or just a single camera. So something else that you might notice when you're out taking pictures with your Pixel 7 Pro or your other Pixel devices, a little line that appears right there in your viewfinder, and you may notice it shows a degree based on how you're holding the device. Well, what that's trying to do is it's trying to help you make sure your picture is level. Notice that when you hit 0, you'll feel a little bump, a little vibration that says everything is flat, everything looks good. That means you're level. Use that to your advantage. Pixels also have really, really nice motion tracking. If you touch an object you want to stay focused and metered on, you'll notice that that circle is staying with that object as I move my camera. It also works if the camera is still and the object is moving. Definitely take advantage of that, but also whenever you tap on that screen, you should see these sliders popping up that can adjust the exposure, the shadows, as well as the color temperature of the photo that you're about to take. So you can really dial this stuff in beforehand. Maybe you want those shadows to be a bit stronger, a moodier picture, brighter, darker, whatever you want to do. You can kind of set that stuff in before you even take the photo. Now, a lot of people don't even really look at your modes down here. They know there's portrait mode, they know there's video mode, but there's actually a lot more that we can kind of go through here. So night sight is obviously their dedicated mode to really make the night turn into day effectively. I don't typically use that mode because the camera app by default will have night mode on automatic. So if it gets dark enough, you should see that night mode turns itself on up there in the corner. But motion is pretty interesting. Let's click on this little question mark there, and you'll kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here. So long exposure. Imagine you're standing next to a train going by, you hold your camera still, you hold down your shutter button as it goes by, and you get an image of a blurred train going by, like you can see there, with a background that is still in focus. Action pan is effectively the opposite. You will see an object going by. In this instance, it looks like someone on some sort of motorized scooter, and they are keeping their phone locked on to this individual, so that what you'll have is a in focus subject with a blurred background. You get some really, really cool shots out of that. Really, really fun to play with. Portrait we've talked about, camera, video. What about cinematic? Cinematic is actually really, really neat as well. So basically think portrait mode, but for video. I'll do a quick demo video here for you to be able to check out. Hopefully I have framed this well. It's really hard to tell. But what you should be seeing here is this video having basically automatic blur on the background around me. Obviously this camera is quite good, but it is not quite good enough to have natural bokeh like this. It's not a portrait lens that is on here, but using software, they can kind of get pretty close to approximating that look. I also want to point out that while you are filming a video, you have the ability to pause where you're filming. So you're filming and then you need to stop for a second, reset, do whatever, and then resume. That is very cool. You can also take a picture while you are filming. I use both of these all the time. Really, really useful. So the Pixel 7 Pro also has a really, really cool macro mode. You can see in your settings here that it should be by default set to automatic, and I think that's where you should probably leave it. Let me show you how this works. If you have an object that you're trying to focus on that is very, very close to your camera, you will see it make a switch to that macro mode, and now you can get like really, really close to that object and take really, really high quality pictures. When you go away, it switches out of that macro mode. Now you might have saw that little flower pop up there in the middle of the screen. That will allow you to lock macro mode. No, I'm sorry, I think it used to lock it. Now it just actually turns it off and on. So you can quickly enable or disable it there with that button. Now another really cool thing about the Pixel camera is astrophotography. Let's go into settings. More settings, advanced, and scroll down until you see enable time-lapse astrophotography. Now, what can you do with that? It's really, really cool. Now, you're going to need a tripod or something to hold your Pixel really nice and still to do this, because if it detects you shaky camming it up, this is not going to work, because it wants to take, like, if I'm remembering correctly, like a 3-minute long exposure of the night sky, and the results, if I do say so myself, are pretty impressive. When I saw this with the naked eye, I saw a handful of stars. The result I got back was not just a photo, but a video, a time lapse, where it would give me the option to pull out individual frames like this one here that caught a shooting star in my picture. So that's pretty cool. But also an innumerable amount of stars that were absolutely just not visible to the naked eye. Really, really impressive. Easy to turn on. Go buy yourself a tripod and try this out tonight. Now, the next couple are not actually in the camera app. They're actually in the Google Photos app. So the first one is a really cool feature called Unblur. And all you got to do is open up a picture, click on Edit, and you should see Unblur here in just a moment right there on the screen. And if you select that, it's going to use some AI to try and make that picture look a bit better. Let me show you the photo you just now looked at, and I'll show it to you on a slightly larger screen here. So that is the before, right? There's a little bit of motion blur there around her eye. She's hard to take a picture of. She's moving around a lot. And then the fixed version, I think, is visibly more in focus. Now, this is not going to be magic. If it's really bad, it's not going to be able to fix it. But to me, that is a pretty substantial improvement. In fact, let me make this bigger, because I fear that it's not going to be visible enough. So again, look around the eye here, look at the fur around the eye, and then let's go back that is definitely better in focus. The next one is called Magic Eraser. Perhaps you've taken a photo and there's something in that photo that you don't want to be in that photo. Click on the Edit button and you should look under Tools and you will see Magic Eraser. Let's click on that. It's going to take a minute and look for things that it thinks you might want to get rid of out of the picture. In this instance, it did not find anything. Let's pinch to zoom in here. And we're just going to circle that little 3M adhesive grip thing. And it did not such a great job. We're just going to circle it again. And it should there pretty much totally get rid of that. Now you can see that if you're looking for it where the light was, it does get a little bit wonky, but in a lot of instances, this is very, very effective. This might be a fun one to try. Let's go into edit here. And this is Jesse showing off some incredible athleticism. And let's go to Magic Eraser and let's see if we can get rid of this child down here by simply circling said child. And let's see if he's deleted. He's gone. That child never existed. That was never there in the first place. This is it's very useful, guys. So there you go. Those are sort of my favorite things to do in that camera app and things that I think will help you get the most out of what is already a superb camera setup. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button on your way out. I'll see you on the next one. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friend.